Thank you so much, Director Morten, for joining us tonight. The first question is, do you believe that the protests happening around the world are putting the right pressures for states to focus on the individual human rights as opposed to institutions?
I think the protests around the world are very important, first of all, as we see them reacting towards the inequality in particular. And of course, the inequality is about human rights. It's about sort of being able to enjoy the rights that you have, right to education, right to health, fair trial, and that all these things are in place, and where people who are left behind, do not have these rights, and there's a protest on that, and that's also about institutions. It's also about institutions to deliver those rights, so the duty bearers are actually alert. And it's also very much a reaction against corruption, mismanagement, and again coming back to the institutions. So I think, and I hope, and what I see in some countries at least, is that it's really sort of maturing, it's shaping up and creating new interesting agendas, which are in high time to address in particular the overall challenge that we are faced with globally on inequality.
How does social media play a positive role in securing human rights?
Social media, nothing is only good and or bad, but definitely, in human rights field, social media are indispensable in the sense that you can communicate violations, you can mobilize people in relation to particular issues. You can also social media can also be a strong tool for migrants, for refugees who lose contact with their family. They can be traced. So there's so much we can do on social media from a human rights perspective. But of course, there's also the flip side to it, that it can be misused. That we do not have that we talk in small echo chambers and do not have a wider, broad discussion on key topics. So we hardly know what other segments of the population think about certain issues, because we are confined to our groups on social media.
To what extent is solidarity affected by economic policies? And is there a correlation between economic prosperity and high levels of solidarity?
In Europe, we could see when the austerity measures really started kicking in after the financial crisis in 2008-9, and anger raising throughout Europe, because the more vulnerable groups in society were those who are paying with the austerity measures, the youngsters who became unemployed, pensioners who got cuts in their pensions, persons with disabilities who were not catered for sufficiently, etc., etc. So all the vulnerable groups were, and those at the bottom in our society were those who took the big hit with the austerity measures, and they felt lack of solidarity. The solidarity was not there, and although many tried to call on the institutions in Brussels and in member states to say, listen, you need to look to those most vulnerable and cater for them. Let's show that welfare state solidarity. But they didn't live up to that fully, and that carved in on the solidarity in Europe, which again I think has had an impact on the way Europeans vote today, very often for extremism and parties where solidarity, in particular solidarity with ethnic minorities, with migrants in need of protection, is not on their agenda. So we have definitely seen development in Europe where solidarity, or the lack of solidarity, have had an impact on the reception of refugees and on human rights.
Thank you very much.